Welcome to Movie Lover News. Me, your host, Tyrone Rubin, the movie lover. You, the audience, the movie lovers. Just a couple of announcements I would like to make before I get into the movie news of the day. I would like to thank Alex for the great shows that he's been doing. When Alex talks about animation, it provides so much insight to the movie lover news audience, as well as all his other shows. This is a thank you to the great content and the great shows that Alex has been putting out there. He's really up in the game. Apparently, when we have our 1 millionth view, Alex is going to have a little party, which is great. I don't think I'm going to be able to have a little party.
Karen, how can you say you're not going to? It sounds like defeatist.
What?
Leave it, that Alex is having a party. Poor me, I can't have a party. Leave that out.
Okay, it's my mom's birthday. That's insight from her. Thanks. We'll try have a party when we have 1 million views. So thank you to everyone who's subscribing to the show. I really appreciate it. The more people who subscribe on YouTube, the more people who comment. We answer all the comments. We really appreciate the audience we're getting because we are going to bring you the #1 movie news show on earth. The news that I'm going to talk about is a couple of cast members have joined the film J. Edgar, which is being directed by Clint Eastwood. For so many reasons, I'm excited about this film. Filming has been underway for J. Edgar Hoover for some time, but more people are being added to this cast. The film is written by Dustin Black, who is an Academy Award winning screenwriter for the script for Milk, and it's been directed, as mentioned, by Clint Eastwood. It's also been produced by Clint Eastwood, and mega mogul producers Brian Grazer and Ron Howard are also producers. It's a biopic of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover's life. I'm going to run down the cast, mention who the characters are, and hopefully get you excited for this film, J. Edgar. Due out next year sometime. There's no official due date for it, but it is due out in 2012. They are busy filming it, and it looks epic. Leonardo DiCaprio is starring as J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover was the first director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. He was instrumental in founding the FBI in 1935, where he remained director until his death in 1971. Hoover is credited with building the FBI into a large and efficient crime-fighting agency, and with instituting a number of modern innovations to police technology, such as centralized fingerprint filing and forensic laboratories. He was FBI director during many presidents' terms, such as Franklin D. Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, and Richard Nixon. Armie Hammond is playing a character called Clyde Tolson. Clyde Tolson was Associate Director of the FBI, primarily responsible for personnel and discipline. He's best known as a protege of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. And Hoover described Tolson as his alter ego. Beautiful actress Naomi Watts, who's playing Helen Gandy, was secretary to J. Edgar Hoover for 54 years, and Hoover called her indispensable. Josh Lucas is playing Charles Lindbergh. Charles Lindbergh was an American aviator, author, inventor, explorer, and social activist. Director J. Edgar Hoover, on his own authority, began to investigate Lindbergh's personal life. Hoover had his agents look for anything that might discredit Lindbergh's reputation, such as his involvement in Prohibition, said he bootlegged whiskey in Montana, and had consorted with pimps and prostitutes. So he was out to get Lindbergh Hoover. Ed Westwick is playing Agent Smith, who was one of Hoover's biographers. Westwick Dench is playing Anne Marie Hoover, who was Hoover's mother. Dermot Mulroney is playing a character called Colonel Schwarzkopf. In 1930, there was the kidnapping of Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., which was the abduction of the son of aviator Charles Lindbergh and Anne Lindbergh. And Colonel Schwarzkopf was the superintendent of the New Jersey State Police who helped investigate this kidnapping. Stephen Root is playing a character called Arthur Koehler, who did forensic work on that kidnapping case. Jeffrey Donovan is playing Bobby Kennedy, who was in office from the 3rd of January 1965 to June 6, 1968. As Attorney General, Kennedy pursued a relentless crusade against organized crime and the mafia, sometimes disagreeing on strategy with J. Edgar Hoover, director of the FBI at the time. Amanda Schull, who's one of the newcomers to this cast, is playing Anita Colby, who was a massive actress at the time. She had a career span in 1936 to 1963 and was great friends with Hoover. Miles Fisher is playing Agent Garrison. He's also a new addition to the cast. He's playing a young FBI agent who interviews Hoover in the film. The film's script uses a framing device with a number of the young FBI agents quizzing Hoover on his past as he writes his autobiography, each one eventually being replaced by the demanding law enforcement agent. So it's going to be a really interesting take to this film. The cinematographer who's shooting this film is Tom Stern, who shot most of Clint Eastwood's most recent films. I'm going to run through the film's cast one more time just to get you excited and tell you where you can see a lot of these cast members and what they're doing. Leonardo DiCaprio, as mentioned, who's playing J. Edgar Hoover, just produced the film that was released this weekend, Red Riding Hood, as well as is executive producer of the film The Ides of March. Armie Hammer, who's playing Clyde Tolson, played Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss in The Social Network. Naomi Watts, who's playing Helen Gandy, can be seen in a couple of films. She was in last year's film Fair Game, as well as in a film due out this year on the 14th of October called The Impossible. It's by director Juan Antonio Bayana, who was director of a film called The Orphanage in 2007, which was a great little horror film. If you haven't seen The Orphanage, which was released in 2007, go check it out. I highly recommend it. This film, The Impossible, which he's directing, which is due out this year, also stars Ewan McGregor, and it's an account of a family caught with tens of thousands of strangers in the mayhem of one of the worst natural catastrophes of our time. So that looks really interesting, starring Naomi Watts. Naomi Watts can also be seen on the 30th of September in a film called Dream House by one of my favorite directors, Jim Sheridan. If you don't know Jim Sheridan, he directed In the Name of the Father and produced it and wrote the screenplay for it in 1993. He also directed a film called The Boxer in 1997, directed In America in 2003, and in 2009 he directed Brothers. It's a film, Dream House, which is due out on the 30th of September, starring Naomi Watts, which looks really interesting. A stellar cast of Daniel Craig and Rachel Weisz also in that film. Josh Lucas, who plays Charles Lindbergh, can be seen in The Lincoln Lawyer. Ed Westwick, who's Agent Smith in Hoover, is the massive star of Gossip Girl. He plays the character Chuck Bass. Judi Dench can be seen in John Madden's film The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, which is due out this year. She can be seen in a film called My Week with Marilyn, which has been directed by Simon Curtis, where Michelle Williams plays Marilyn Monroe. Emma Watson plays a character called Lucy. Kenneth Branagh plays Sir Laurence Olivier, and Julia Ormond plays Vivian Lee. Judi Dench can be seen in Cary Fukunawa's directed film Jane Eyre, based on the literature by Charlotte Bronte, where Maya Wasikowska plays Jane Eyre and Jamie Bell plays St. John Rivers. Judi Dench can be seen in the massive blockbuster Pirates of the Caribbean, the fourth one, on Stranger Tides, which is due out on the 20th of May this year, which is being directed by Rob Marshall. Jack Sparrow's character's back, being played by Johnny Depp. Jeffrey Rush is Barbosa, and Penelope Cruz has joined the cast as Angelica. And lastly, Judi Dench can be seen in the new James Bond film, Bond 23, which has been directed by Sam Mendes, director of American Beauty, The Road to Perdition, Revolutionary Road. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see him do the new James Bond film, Bond 23, where Daniel Craig is back as James Bond and Judi Dench as M. It's due out on the 9th of November next year. Dermot Mulroney, who's playing Colonel Schwarzkopf, can be seen in a film due out next year called Everybody Loves Wales, as well as a film called The Grey, which is being directed by Joe Carnahan, due out next year, and stars Liam Neeson. Stephen Root, who's playing Arthur Koehler in Hoover, can also be seen in that film with Dermot Mulroney, called Everybody Loves Wales. Jeffrey Donovan, who's joined the cast, is the massive star of Burn Notice, and he also was in a Clint Eastwood film called Changeling. Amanda Schull, who's one of the new additions to the cast, who plays Anita Colby, was in a film called Mayo's Last Dance in 2009 and can be seen in a lot of television series such as Hawaii 5-0. And Miles Fisher, who's joined the cast as the character Agent Garrison, can be seen in Final Destination 5 on the 26th of August this year. A little recap of Clint Eastwood's last couple of films. Last year he directed the film called Hereafter. He directed the film called Invictus in 2009. And after J. Edgar, he's set to direct the 4th version of the film, A Star is Born. It's about a movie star who helps a young singer actress find fame, even as age and alcoholism sends his own career into a downward spiral. And Beyonce Knowles has been cast in that film, A Star is Born. The first A Star is Born was in 1937, which starred Janet Gaynor and Frederick March. The second version of A Star is Born was in 1954, which starred Julie Garland and James Mason and was directed by George Cukor. And the third version of A Star is Born was in 1976, which starred Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson and was directed by Frank Pearson. So that is the 4th version of A Star is Born, being directed by Clint Eastwood after Hoover's finished. On a scale of 1 to 10, Hoover's a 10 out of 10 on my excitement meter. It looks like it's got so much going for it. This rich character who started the FBI, an amazing cast, Leonardo DiCaprio starring as J. Edgar Hoover. I've mentioned the rest of the cast, which should get you excited for this sophisticated look into the director of the FBI, as well as introducing characters such as Bobby Kennedy, Charles Lindbergh. This film's going to be epic. It's one of my most anticipated films for 2012, and as mentioned, 10 out of 10 on my personal excitement meter. I know it's been a long show about J. Edgar Hoover, but the film looks interesting. It's going to be a while before a trailer comes out, so obviously thought I'd go into a little bit of a detailed analysis of some of the characters in this film. Hopefully it provided some insight and excitement into the new Clint Eastwood film, J. Edgar, based on the life of J. Edgar Hoover. Thanks for watching Movie Lover News. We'll keep bringing you great shows on all great movies that are coming out. Thank you.